Thanks to EA for sponsoring this video.
What's up everyone, Darcblade here with a Hunter's Guide to Wild Hearts. In this beginner's guide we'll be giving you 10 tips to the game. Now, tip number 1 is when it comes to loot. Namely the loot that you get from large KEMONO, KEMONO being the monsters in the game. Now when you successfully defeat a KEMONO, unlike other monster hunting games, you don't carve the monster, the loot is automatically transferred to your hunter. However, there are a few exceptions, as multiple body parts on the KEMONO can be broken, and doing so will either drop shinies on the floor, which can then be looted manually, or certain body parts such as tails or other large components like antlers or trees on the back of a monster will need to be carved instead. So don't forget to look out for them on the floor should you break them off of a KEMONO. Tip number 2 is the small KEMONO. Now the small KEMONO in the game have two forms of loot. Yes, you can slay them and normally get meat or scales from them, but you can actually pet them. Should you crouch, use some stealth and sneak up behind a small KEMONO, you can actually pet them, and in doing so, they'll give you a unique item that you can't normally get. So don't always rush in to kill the small KEMONO, especially the cute ones. Tip number 3 is that Wild Hearts gives you quite a decent tutorial when it comes to learning the weapons in the game. If you head on over to one of the bear training dummies, which one is found right at the start of the game, you can turn on the attack tutorials, to which the game will teach you the basics of whichever weapon you so choose. Whilst this doesn't teach you absolutely everything that a weapon can do, it's nonetheless a great way to learn whatever weapon you're interested in. Tip number 4 is KARAKURI constructions. What I mean by this is, whilst you can craft basic KARAKURIs like crates, springs and so on and so forth, eventually as you progress through the game you'll be able to combine these. For example, building 6 crates next to one another will create a barricade. Creating 6 torches will create a firework, which can knock flying monsters out of the sky. These can get really complex, to the point where you can combine different ones together to get different effects, like combining the crate, the glider and then another crate to create a KARAKURI that gives you elemental resistances. But like I said, these unlock as you progress through Wild Hearts' story. The 5th tip is that you can change the basic KARAKURI that you have available to you. Now when they say basic KARAKURI, they mean combat KARAKURI, basically the contraptions that you create whilst you're actually on a hunt. To do this you have to go to the change equipment tab at a workbench and then tab over to the basic KARAKURI options. Here you can swap out and assign the different KARAKURI that you want to use during a hunt. Unfortunately you can't use them, or you can only assign 4 of them and there are 6 in total. So you need to use what is best for the hunt ahead. Now tip number 6 is the Hunter's Vision. Now this is an ability that you use to normally track a monster, but it can also be used when it comes to finding KARAKURI thread, i.e. the material that you use to restock the resources used to create KARAKURI contraptions. So if you're on a hunt and you're low on the KARAKURI resource, i.e. the thread, you can use your Hunter's Vision to find nearby rocks or trees that you can mine or knock down to get more thread and restock that resource. Now tip number 7 is when it comes to creating your own bases, or your own camps. Now you can create camps at any of the dragon pits that you find on the map, but I would strongly advise building your bases wherever you find a tree that you can construct a healing fountain at. Setting up a base here will allow you to quickly travel back and replenish a large amount of healing water, which is definitely useful when it comes to difficult hunts, as replenishing your healing water can be a slow process otherwise. Now tip number 8 is to upgrade your armor. Don't neglect upgrading your armor when you're going through the game. Wild Hearts could be seen as quite a tough challenge, especially when compared to some other hunting games out there. And whilst the hunts are not impossible, you're going to have a far easier time if you spend some time farming the monsters, creating the armor and weaponry that is related to them, in order to tackle the challenges that lie ahead of you much more comfortably. And tip number 9 is to use the camp's resources to buff your food. Using drying racks, smokers, pickling jars, and other contraptions that you can create will allow you to put the food you forage into them, enhancing their effects and giving you better buffs. And the final tip I can give you is to not neglect the KARAKURI upgrade tree. Go into your options menu and scrolling along to the 2nd tab, you'll find a tree that will allow you to upgrade all the various KARAKURI contraptions using a resource that you get from breaking KEMONO body parts. But there is one important one that you want to focus on upgrading, which is the water totter, which basically increases the amount of healing water you can hold, which will make your hunts easier going forward. And so those are 10 quick beginner tips to Wild Hearts. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.